What's up, everyone? Digital Golf Doc here today to talk about the perfect squat for you. And for you is the key word there because my squat's going to look a little bit different than your squat and from everyone else's for that matter. So let's talk about some of those differences. We're going to start from the ground up. So first thing we talk about is foot position. So you'll notice, if you go around the gym, a lot of people have their feet out to the side. Some have their feet straight ahead. Some people are way out here. Your gym teacher in high school may have said, feet shoulder width apart, toes straight ahead. That's your squat form. Who's right? Well, the trick is everybody, sometimes. The position of your feet and really the position of your hips is determined by your genetics. The shape of my hip joint is going to be different than yours. And we could get an x-ray, go measure them, find our ideal spot, or we could just try a few different positions, see what you like best. So the first thing I ask anyone to do is simply stand roughly shoulder width apart, feet just wherever they're comfortable, and then squat. Come back up, do one more, and think, how'd that feel? Now you can try a little bit more narrow. Now we can try feet straight ahead, feet wide. Again, it doesn't matter what position you end up in. What I want you to do is try different positions and go to the one with the least resistance. It's going to make it easiest for you to move, and most likely it's going to be the healthiest thing for your joints. The next thing we're going to look at is our shin and knee position. As you notice from a side view, as I squat down, my knees start to go forward. A lot of people will say, don't let your knees pass your toes. I disagree. If you have the requisite ankle mobility, your knees should go as far as you're comfortable going. You'll notice as I go down, I go right past my toes just a little bit. So to countless gold medal winners on Olympic lifting teams across the years. If you can squat, your knees can go past your toes as long as you keep your heels on the ground and the weight distributed evenly through your foot. Now, what you don't want is to have your heels pop off the ground. So, if you can't do it without your heels popping off the ground, you probably have a limited ankle mobility. We'll use another video to talk about the things we can do about that, but just keep in mind your knees can progress as forward as you want, and forcing your shins upright is probably not going to do anything except maybe give you knee pain. The other thing we like to look at is knee position relative to your ankles. You'll notice as I squat, whether I squat here or if I go into what's called a sumo squat position here, my knees stay right over top of my ankles, and that's the key here. What we don't want is to have the knees drop way in. We also don't want to push the knees way out. Again, you want to have that nice even weight distribution, front or back of your foot, side to side on your foot, with your knees progressing forward straight over your toes. The next thing we're going to look at is your hips. And when we were talking about foot position earlier, that was really a product of hip position. So when I turn out this way, it's because I'm rotating from my hips. So if you ever feel a pinch while you're squatting, I try some of those different positions, see if you still get the pinch. If you don't, great, that's your new squatting position. If you do, again, then it's time to start troubleshooting with a medical professional to find out what you need to do to squat comfortably. The other thing with your hips is you have to have enough mobility to keep your trunk at least somewhat upright. I'm a fairly upright squatter, so when I squat, I stay straight up and down pretty well. Some of that has to do with the length of my femurs compared to the length of my lower leg, compared to the length of my torso. You'll find some people, they look like they're in a really good position, but they're here. And that's okay. That can just be your difference in mobility of your joints based on your bony structure. And you're not going to change your bony structure. So what you really want to look at is some of these other things positionally with your legs to decide if that amount of forward lean is appropriate for you. As we go down, we like to see a nice neutral spine. So you'll see my chest is angled slightly toward the ground. I don't want to crank myself up like this because you'll see I get this big arch in my back. Put a lot of stress on the lower back that way. So you don't want to crank yourself up too far. You just want to have this nice, natural, normal lordotic curve in your lower back, and that's going to help distribute the pressure throughout your spine on the different discs and muscles and ligaments without overstressing one thing. Another thing I like to point out is your eye level. So when I squat, I keep my eyes straight ahead on the wall. I've heard a lot of coaches tell people to look up at the ceiling. But all that does is ends up cranking their back up even farther. We just talked about how that can create some irritation. So again, the perfect squat is the perfect squat for you, not for everybody. So we can go through a little bit of checklist. We can start with our setup. Are we in a comfortable position? Can we drop down keeping our heels on the ground? Can our knees stay over our ankles this way? Again, we don't mind if they go too far forward this way. Can our hips bend without a pinching or an irritation? Can we get a good position through our spine? Can we maintain all those positions as we go down and back up? Another thing we want to look at is how to do it with weight. So you can do this with a barbell on your back. You can do a front squat where the weight comes across the front. You can hold a dumbbell or a kettlebell. Those all work. Now, if you are holding a dumbbell or kettlebell, for me, I like to hold a kettlebell like this. But it's not the only way to hold it. A lot of people like this position. Some people will hold a dumbbell where they, again, pinch in that same position. They'll grab from either side. Those are all fine. Just make sure you're maintaining some of those positions we've talked about throughout this video. Now, if you have pain in any of these positions, or you can't get into them, or something just doesn't feel right, reach out to me. I'm happy to help. I can break down some of these specifics in other videos. You just have to let me know in the comments below or by email. Thanks, everyone. Happy squatting.